want to first thank Paul Abel and Dan Mazanek, who have continued and will continue feeding me input on human exploration goals. Really not a lot more to report versus what I presented at SBAG20. I'll just go to the next slide, which is a virtual duplicate of what I presented at that occasion. But for those that haven't seen that slide, let me just quickly review some semantics about what we mean by off-Earth human exploration. There's a great quote in a white paper NASA issued a few years back. Explorers go with the intent of returning to tell their story and point the way for future forays. Pioneers go with the intent of establishing a permanent presence. So with that in mind, we're looking at something like Lewis and Clark as opposed to people putting down roots and becoming sodbusters. The pioneering and settling terminology we see thrown a lot around today are not in NASA's charter. So even though such enterprises might be enabled by NASA exploration, they aren't the primary objective associated with this goal. So only a subset of ISRU is relevant, I think, to Goal 3, human exploration. And that's really the biggest change that we're making in Goal 3 is we want to recognize we're bringing this new ISRU-related goal into the document. And there, we want to recognize as well that we're only focused in Goal 3 on a certain component of ISRU. And that leads to the second and last bullet in this section. This is the only change versus the similar statement that we made at SBAG20, and it's suggested by Dan Britt. I'm surprised I didn't think of it myself, and I appreciate that input. These resources, the ISRU resources identified for human exploration will focus on mission-enabling forms of ISRU. And they include, up there in the previous bullet, adequate habitation facilities, as well as mission completion consumables, like thinking of water, if you're worried about that. Maybe someday we'll have some kind of propellant processing facility that is ISRU related. So all that stuff. In addition to that, we may use berms or subsurface habitats. And so just the native regolith or soil is an ISRU preventing radiation or minimizing radiation exposure. So that's about the only addition that we have since the last review of this introductory paragraph. That's really the big change that I have right now in Goal 3. So any questions or further comments?
Yeah, so this, so we should be careful, I think, as a community, not exactly, maybe not be seen as exactly up this alley, but particularly given the desire for diversity and inclusion, that we go into space, that we bring everyone along and we use the, that we try to stay away from, narratives that, a lot of people don't like, the colonization overlay that a lot of people have. And also, as part of this, it's been suggested, I've had conversations with people online, I don't know if they're still online, Kristen Block in particular, where we've talked about how some of the goals and some of the SKGs involve biologists, involve, engineers, people who are not planetary scientists. We might also want to think about explicitly including, ethicists and people to look at these sorts of issues. So I haven't looked at Goal 3 in detail to know how that might best be folded in, but I think that we should consider that, and I think there's a desire in the community to make sure we do this right. Here's our chance to do this right.
Okay, and for those that couldn't hear, if I could summarize Andy correctly, further. He wants to be sure that Goal 3 and discussions of particularly non-NASA chartered kind of items like colonization are really broadly inclusive. And that might include ethicists. Certainly astrobiologists might not be considered planetary science mainstream, but maybe they are. Kind of hard to say where they're coming from. So we want to make sure that we have in our human exploration goals some kind of ethical flavor to them. And we may be missing that right now. I'd have to go through and check that myself.
Yeah, and also to recognize that this is an ongoing, discussion, an ongoing discussion.
Certainly is, yeah, as is NASA's charter, if you ask some people in Congress. So, yeah, the rules of the road may change. Anything else?
From online, John Rummel, because it is an expendable commodity, water may be much more obviously profitable than precious metals, which are profitable because they are rare. If not rare, they are not so expensive.
Okay, and so the comment from online is water may be much more precious than precious metals, and particularly the way I've defined the focus in this goal for ISRU, I would agree that, a hunk of platinum, if you're running low on water, ain't worth much to you if you're trying to get home alive. So, I think, and we've got, I think Dan Ritt and I have reached a mutual consensus on that as well, that we can form these two flavors of ISRU and sort of go from there.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Dan. Okay. And so do we have, let's see, Carolyn Mercer, if you are online.